Oh, hello everybody. Yeah, I'm really glad to be here with you, see you. Really quite close to Shabbat for me over here in the UK. Really lovely to be ending the week in this way. And you may know, as Mark mentioned, that we've just yesterday and Wednesday had the holiday of Shavuot, where we recall the revelation at Sinai from a mystical perspective, where we re-experience the revelation again live. And then today, I don't know about you, but for me, I was working again. So we have this peak, summit, mountaintop moment. And then right afterwards, to quote the title of a Jack Cornfield book, after the ecstasy, the laundry. It's like Shavuot yesterday, we're at Sinai, and then today we're doing everyday chores. At least I am. And so, I wonder, how does practice support us to navigate these transitions smoothly? Whatever Shavuot was like for you, whatever today happens to hold for you, I'm sure you recognize the general point that, life is just such a mixture, that it turns on a dime, or as we say in the UK, on a sixpence, whatever your currency, right? It keeps on turning. And in fact, if we look closely, not only does it keep on changing, but even in one and the same moment, we might find both the ecstasy and the laundry, the revelation and the everyday, the light and the dark, the grief and the joy, connection and space. I can tell you that personally at the moment, I'm noticing this most in something like the following way. I'll experience a moment of pleasantness, breath of fresh air, some glimmer of beauty. And then very quickly, my mind jumps to the hostages, to Gaza, and it feels incompatible. It's challenging. It's like how to be with the beauty and the heartbreak. What helps me here between the ecstasy and the laundry, or the beauty and the heartbreak, is what I want to offer you as a theme for our practice today, which we could call allowing the plurality. Like allowing as best we can the genuine diversity of subjective experience. That it's just not as simple as either this or that. When we look closely, it's both beauty, sadness, heartbreak, healing, tragedy, wonder. And can we soften enough to leave it open at both ends so that the presence of difficulty does not have to mean the absence of pleasantness? There's room for everything here in the boundless vastness of awareness, unless and until we decide and insist otherwise. For example, we're meditating and then we notice some distraction, some mind wandering, sleepy or restless. And if we're caught in this trap of either this or that thinking, we conclude that if there's some distraction, oh, then we must not really be practicing. Maybe you recognize this, right? Oh, we're getting it wrong. Yada, 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 yada. All the voices piling in. If, on the other hand, we practice allowing the plurality, we might notice that as well as the wondering, the movement of the mind, sure, there's also awareness, presence, connection, steadiness, that they're not locked in a zero-sum battle. They're actually just both here. And if we choose to, we can lean into presence, even just a little more. We don't have to get rid of the distraction first. I think this wisdom of letting it all be in one space permeates our tradition. We remember the destruction of the temple at the climax of a wedding ceremony. We praise the divine in the Kaddish prayer, which we'll say shortly. When someone so close to us has died, we praise. Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, is also the happiest day of the year, we're told. As a heavenly voice declares when a debate is raging in the Talmud, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. Both these and these are the words of the living God. According to the Zohar, Shavuot, which we've just had, is the occasion of the marriage, different parts of the divine, God and the Shekhinah. So there's a sense of plurality even in divinity itself, which we see also in the different faces and qualities of the 10 Sfirot, divine emanations. And by the way, that phrase I used earlier, letting it all be in one space, all the diversity, all the plurality in one space. This is how I understand the relationship between what I'm encouraging us to allow, this plurality, and the echad, the oneness of the Shema. That the echad is the oneness of the space in which there is room for everything. So, I invite you to move into meditation with me. To feel the contact of whatever it is that your body is resting on. To allow the weight of the body, hands on legs or in lap, feet on floor perhaps, bottom on cushion or chair. Allowing the ground to press up into you. Allowing the plurality is less of a direct practice as much as a kind of background mood or intention that we can set, that will try not to let one part dictate the whole. So we can choose some focus for our attention, something that feels available, a kind of receptacle or platform for our attention, for our minds. Maybe the breath, the nishmat chayim, the breath of life. Maybe the hands, maybe the soundscape around you, sounds and the silences between them. Maybe something else. Helpful to choose something as the foreground. Doesn't matter too much what that is. Just resting the mind here, feeling the simplicity perhaps of just giving attention to one thing for now. Just this, whatever your this is, your zot. As you observe what you observe, the simplicity of the foreground. In the background, perhaps trying to allow the openness and diversity of the space. That there's room for everything here, thoughts and sensations, presence and wandering, and that we might lean into presence even just a little bit more. Tuning into your chosen focus, whatever that may be, without having to clear anything up in the background, leaving it where it is and choosing where to turn. Oh, if you notice that in some way this has become a task, taken on a harder edge, if this has become something you can get right or wrong. Ah, sweetheart, so human to find it this way, turn it into a task. That's what we do. And we have also the option to just ease and soften into simply noticing what's here without having to change any of it. This is just how it is right now. It doesn't have to demand anything of you in this very moment. You can simply receive it in all its plurality or mystery, complexity or simplicity. Just noticing what's here as best you can, receiving it in the field of awareness, the field of your being, with the consideration perhaps that the most prominent thing you notice may not be the only thing that's here, that your antenna might be attuned to what else is moving through, emerging quietly or at the edges, coming to bless you. Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim. Both these and these are the words of the living God. We are being spoken to in diverse, different ways. Can we hear the full range? As we come into the final few minutes, I'd like to read you an extract from a poem by Lynn Ungar, which I first heard from Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. I invite you to receive it along with whatever else is here for you, letting it add to what's already here. She says, and how do you live? With grief, with fear, with laughter, with boredom, with glee, with contentment, with fury, with hope, with the firm conviction that no thing cancels any other thing out. Death does not cancel life. Grief does not cancel joy. Fear does not cancel conviction, nor any of those statements in reverse. Make your heart a bowl that is large enough to hold it all. Imagine that you are the potter. Stretch the clay. Cherish the turning wheel. Accept that the bowl is never going to be done. As we're about to say in the Kaddish prayer, may the one who makes peace on high make peace for us, for all Israel, and for everyone who sits on the earth. Amen.
And thank you so much for the beautiful gift, Zac. Friends, let's seal the practice, that beautiful practice, offering an opportunity for those of you who are in mourning, observing a yard site, or it's your custom to join in the Kaddish. To do so, you can put the name or names of those you're honoring now in the chat, or after you recite Kaddish. If you're not reciting Kaddish, we ask that you please stay present for those who are, to create a minyan of comfort, passion for them. And if you're joining me, please rise in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitkadal, Yikadash, Shemerabah, Amad, Tavati, Tayekon, Kol, Hayet, Kol Beit Israel, Agala, Bizman Kvi, Ru, Amin.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba, Mevarach, Lam, Amei, Amaya. Barach, Yishtabach, Yitpa'ar, Yithaman, Yitse, Yitalel, Yishala, Yikdusha, Yishu, Ela, Mikol, Birchata, B'Shirata, B'Shpachata, V'Nechamata, Amiran, Alma, Imru, Amen. Hey, Shlama Rabba, Im Shamaya, L'chaim, Aleinu, V'El Israel, Imru, Amin. Shalom
Shalom
b'nama,
B'nai,
Shalom Aleinu, Ya'afu
Yaakov
Yisrael, Ya'akol
Yaakov
Yoshei
Yosef
Tevel, Bimru, Amen.
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 Friends, thanks so much for joining us today. If you're leaving us now, I want to wish you a sweet and restorative Shabbat. I put in the chat our lineup of teachers for next week. On Monday, will be led by Rabbi Daniel Raphael Silverstein. on Tuesday by Rabbi Susan Leiter. Remember, no live sit on Wednesday in commemoration of Juneteenth. Thursday, Yiska Smith will be joining us from Jerusalem. And on Friday, we welcome Aaron Rotenberg, who'll be leading us for the first time, a wonderful teacher from Toronto who will be joining us for the first time a week from today. Many, many thanks to Zac Newman for leading us today in this wonderful practice. And as well, many thanks to Natalie Rushinoff and to Jeff Bachman for holding our tech space today so beautifully. As always, you're welcome to stay on, either just to continue to sit with that guidance from Zac. You can turn off your sound, your device, and just continue to sit with us if you like, or join us for conversation about the teaching or sharing reflections about the practice in the chat. You're welcome to share that as well. If you do have a question, please write question in all caps and keep an eye out for your question and try to weave that into the conversation as well. Zac, thank you so much. For me, that was extremely, it's a beautiful teaching, beautiful practice. And I love how you wove that principle of Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim chayim, which is a quote from the Talmud, into this, really making this deep connection with rabbinic tradition about which holds that there is holiness in multiple opinions, right? And kedusha. Just this morning, I'll share with you. This morning I walked outside and I was kind of in a cranky mood, and then I saw one of the posters of the hostages up on a pole here in New York City, and I went into a whole story about about being reminded and thinking about that and thinking about my privilege of being free and being able to walk about, etc. And I was just struck by toggling back and forth between many different thoughts. And you were inviting us today beautifully in the expanse, in the limitless expanse of awareness, to hold all the emotions, all the thoughts, all the opinions in this oneness of that awareness. So my question I want to start with is, it feels like it's a good spiritual step to remember that, oh, I can feel joy about and happiness and experience beauty and feel intense, as you said, heartbreak, pain at the same time, as well as a myriad other emotions and thoughts. That's a great step to be able to hold that at one time, right? But then it seems to me it's one more step or one more level to see all of those subsumed in the oneness in some sense. In other words, not to be toggling back, oh, now I feel this, now I feel this, now I think this, now I think that, but actually being able to hold them simultaneously in the oneness. This is a little bit of a personal question in terms of your practice. What do you notice for yourself in that? Do you find yourself, toggling, like I was putting it that way, just that's the only word I can think of right now, is moving back and forth between the feelings or the thoughts or the opinions, and oh, there's this, and there's that, and this, and this. But there's the sense of walking through life with that awareness and the awareness of it's all in the oneness, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. I definitely relate to the toggling, bouncing back and forth, now here, now there. And it's a kind of complicated question. Like, do we have multiple things here really at the same time? Or are we moving very quickly between one thing and another? And I'm not really sure, you know? I'm not sure if I got really subtle. Would it be actually moving very quickly or both at the same time? But what I definitely notice for myself is that sometimes that kind of movement back and forth, oh, now my heart is really in Israel. Now my heart is with this thing that I'm doing over here. Now I'm with this tree outside my window. Sometimes that kind of dynamism, um, I get persuaded that it's a problem. And it's like, wait, which one's real? And if I'm feeling this distraction, I must not really be present. Or if I'm appreciating the beauty just over here, I must not really be also in Israel, also with the hostages, also with the pain and the heartbreak. And I think in the background of that kind of self-judgment is an assumption that really you're only having one experience or another. And I was trying to speak to open that up and to say, there's room for a lot here. And maybe in a given moment, this is a bit more prominent or that's a bit more prominent, but all of it is real. And as Lin Ungar says, nothing cancels anything else out. It's a kind of irreducible plurality that honors all the different parts of our experience. The beauty, thank God, is real and inexhaustible. And the heartbreak is real too. And we don't have to choose between them.
Feels like such an important teaching for right now. It's always an important teaching, but especially right now. Um, love the bowl metaphor. This question was, wait a minute, let me scroll up to Lori's question. I lost it. Sorry. Um, I put the reference, by the way, for those interested in the Talmudic reference for the Elu. The Elu, it's like one of these classic stories in the Talmud. Where's Lori's question? Sorry. Roy, could you put it back? Oh, there it is. Elu ve'elu. Both these and these relaxes my mind and soul. My question is about my tendency. Oops, I lost. Can you see it? Oh, my tendency to want to deliberately make room for the good, increase capacity for and attention to the good rather than just relaxing, accepting what is. How do we quell that and just lean into presence?
I can't see the question. Thank you,
Question is,
Laurie.
it sounds like
Am I?
Lori's saying that, that there's at least speaking for her inclination, I can relate to this probably too, of wanting to make room for like the, I guess it's kind of compensating for negativity bias by saying, oh, I want to make space for the good. And that's the practice that you're suggesting, I think, is about, as Lori is saying, leaning into presence, which is neither good nor bad. It's not the pleasant or unpleasant. It's not like trying to cultivate pleasantness. It's being with what is, being with presence. Does that sound right?
Great question. I think, in keeping with this whole teaching, I guess, that
Mm-hmm.
we can do both.
Mm-hmm.
We can do both, allowing, and cultivating. I also really want to nurture the goodness
Mm-hmm.
for my own benefit, for the benefit of the people around me. I need to do that. If I'm not proactive about it, yeah, my negativity bias, takes over.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually find personally that when I've got this background sense of plurality in the divine, plurality in creation, plurality in my experience, this like already anticipating there's going to be a whole lot of different things here, then cultivating the good isn't like trying to elbow out the bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, there's room for everything. I'm just growing this one part which nourishes my soul, but the space is not limited. to grow one thing, I don't have to squash another.
Mhm.
There's room for it all. And absolutely, like this frequency or wavelength, I want to elicit and entice and coax and tend to. And that isn't at the expense of anything else.
That's a wonderful answer to that question. I have one more question, and then I actually would love to invite you to, love for us to end and ease into Shabbat. If you would read the poem again by Lynn Unger. Love that bowl metaphor. So here's the question. Since you brought in that Talmudic quote, Elu ve'elu divrei Elohim Chaim, these and these are the words of the living God. Also, this might be a little bit of a personal question, but it's about the meeting place of mindfulness and spirituality, I think, in terms of whatever you're comfortable with in terms of God language, because that quote basically is saying that all these expressions or all these experiences or all these thoughts are manifestations in some way of the divine. It's not just Elu ve'elu, but it's these and these are the words or the manifestations of the living God, which is an Divrei Elohim Chaim, the living God, which is an interesting expression in and of itself, right, of life unfolding. Um, so the personal question is, as an expression of your own spirituality, do you experience all these thoughts, all these emotions, all these opinions, all these the plurality, as you described it so beautifully, as manifestations of God or spirit or the divine? Is that how you experience when you're sitting? Do you experience it that way? You feel like you're sitting with God, and this, these are all different. It's a great day after Shavuot question.
Yeah, yeah. Um, here too, plurality. I don't have one way of experiencing my life and the world. Even one very beautiful and holy way of seeing everything as divine. I can't sustain that, you know.
Mhm.
Maybe some people can. Sounds lovely, but I'm moving between perceptions of separation and perceptions of connection. And if I allow the plurality, that too is kind of okay. It's like, oh, sometimes I see myself as over here and lonely and separate and all of it. And at other times, especially if I'm on retreat or I've been practicing deeply or I'm blessed in some revelatory way, uh, then I am able to see the holiness of what other times it's very difficult for me to see the holiness of.
Mhm.
And, with practice and cultivation, I have had those perceptions enough to trust that they're real and available. It is possible to see more than we normally think as being divine, even what really feels painful. Like I'm not there all the time. No, I'm coming in and out of all sorts of different ways of feeling and experiencing. And there are some that, like Laurie's wonderful question, there are some like that, seeing everything as divine. There are some that I'd love to be able to inhabit more often. And I'm doing the best I can to move in that direction.
Thank you for sharing all of that. So Zach, I know also Shabbat's coming in. We want to let you go, but would you do us the honor of closing us out with that beautiful poem again?
Yeah, with pleasure. Oh, so the full poem you can read, it's in the chat, and I read this extract, which I'll read
Right.
now again. So Lin Ungar is asked, and how do you live? This is at the time of the COVID pandemic, but I think it speaks to many crises. And she says, with grief, with fear, with laughter, with boredom, with glee, with contentment, with fury, with hope, with the firm conviction that no thing cancels any other thing out. Death does not cancel life. Grief does not cancel joy. Fear does not cancel conviction, nor any of those statements in reverse. Make your heart a bowl that is large enough to hold it all. Imagine that you are the potter. Stretch the clay, cherish the turning wheel. Accept that the bowl is never going to be done. Shabbat Shalom.
Thanks so much, Zac. That's beautiful. Wishing you a good Shabbat, sweet Shabbat. Thanks to Natalie and Jet, to you. Thanks to each of you for showing up for each other, for yourselves today, for creating this beautiful circle of practice, this beautiful bowl to hold all of it as we head into Shabbat. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We'll see you on Monday. Be well and safe.